story is told of Reb Chaim Volozhin, who was a Levi. A famous story is told. It said they asked him when he was 3 years old. He participated in the Duchening. He was a Levi. He was in the Kahal and he received a bracha. So they asked him, "How did you feel?" So he said, by reputation, he said, "I felt like a chefzer shel mitzvah. I felt like an object of mitzvah that allowed other people to perform a mitzvah, a bracha." He was 3 years old when he said this, according to tradition. So I'm not sure I even quite understand it today. It's my intention. The rabbi's been after me to do this for years, and it's been my intention actually to make a simple madrich, a simple printed set of instructions as to what the proper procedures are for duchening. But I have to be very careful when I do that, because when everybody's here, I can make eye contact and I can see if everybody understood exactly what it was I said. But if I write something up, I have to go over it so many times, so I have to make sure that it doesn't mislead people in the way in which it's written. It has to be written so precisely to make sure that it doesn't yotze lepo or yotze lekat. So I have to make sure that, but I am going to write up a set of procedures. We had once talked about here making even a madrich legabai, even a real what the proper procedures are. But I'm going to talk on a very practical level, and just also want to say it by way of introduction that very often people say, well, my minig is not to do that, and when is it proper to say my minhag is not to do something? Well, why do we hold that even in minhagim, the way Jews do things, why that's significant? The reason being is we say lo neviim heim b'nei neviim heim. The Jews themselves today are not prophets; they're descended from prophets. So it might be that a particular halachic tradition could be preserved by a community, and we want to make sure that even though we may not know the exact svara, if they're preserving a halachic tradition, then it may be that they have a tradition that wasn't accessible to us, and it may also be the halacha. However, when people just don't do something because they didn't know, or because of a misunderstanding, just the fact that people did it in past generations doesn't give it the same kind of kedusha that's a verifiable minhag does. And when we say minhag kedin, that we say that a minhag can have the force of Jewish law, it doesn't mean that just because a group of people didn't do something out of ignorance, it takes on a life of its own and it becomes law. It's only when a particular community reflects a halachic tradition that minhag has some kind of force to it. So, if, for instance, wouldn't it be equally absurd to say that most people say, well, look, I'm a Chal Shabbos, I drive on Shabbos because it's my minhag. My father drove on Shabbos, my grandfather drove on Shabbos. Many generations have been driving on Shabbos. This is our minhag to drive on Shabbos. Obviously, that's absurd. So the things that I'm going to tell you today are not shrouded in controversy. As a matter of fact, where there is a difference in minhag, I'll try to mention it, or I won't discuss it at all. But the things I'm going to mention today, almost all is already laid out in the Talmud. The procedures for Nesiyat Kapayim, for the lifting of one's hands, and that's, by the way, the technical word for it is Nesiyat Kapayim. Kapayim, of course, are palms. It's already laid out in the Gemara and Sota, and almost all the dinim that we have today, which are the Shulchan Aruch, are already, the procedures are already told to us in the Orient Shas. So from the time we know, at least from the time of Bais Rishon, we know how it was done. So if somebody comes and tells you that in Europe we do it this way or whatsoever, if it's already in the Gemara and it was Leis Mandapali and there's nobody who disagrees with how it should be done, then that kind of an opinion, you'll have to excuse me, is irrelevant. So sometimes I'm going to tell you things that my own grandfather wasn't makpid on in Tziyas Kapayim. If I would have pointed out to him that they were in the Shulchan Aruch, he would have admitted it. I could have shown him, b'mo einav. I could have shown him where it was written. He just didn't do it because there wasn't being careful and didn't know, perhaps, or never thought about the fact that he should have been more sensitive to those particular what applies to my grandfather applies to every Jew. You could point out things to me that I also didn't realize. Something very often people here have pointed out things to me in Shulchan Aruch, and I say, now that I think about it, you show me you're right. That's what you should do. So this is not an insult to anybody's tradition, community, or ancestry if you were taught to do something, perhaps not totally correctly. Anyway, I'm going to, at a very practical level, start with the walking out for after the Kedusha, and till the end of the bracha itself, and to what the procedures are. And if you want to see a good summary of these things, you can, of course, find them. I haven't looked at that, but you can, of course, find them in the Mishnah Berurah. And I think what I might do is actually translate the Siman in the Mishnah Berurah for anybody who would be interested. And because you can see almost all the procedures laid out there. The first thing is, when we go up to Duchen, you notice that Kohanim, we stand and wait, and then go up at by Ritzeh. Okay? The real function of Ritzeh is that a Kohen has to be Oker Raglayim, has to have left his spot to start the process towards in the Siyat Kapayim, towards Duchening. He has to have started by Ritzeh, which means that if a Kohen doesn't have to be up there by Ritzeh, we sort of have changed now. We wait and stand there, and then we walk up when it starts Ritzeh. But really what the real truth is that one has to have started, has Oker Raglayim, finished the Shemona Esrei by Ritzeh, and started towards the Duchan. Okay, now the Duchan refers to the platform upon which the Kohanim would stand. To Duchen is not a verb. It really, the word Duchan was a spot in the Beit HaMikdash where they would stand in order to give the bracha. It really means a platform. Okay? But you had to be Oker Raglayim. You had to already have started by Ritzeh. Now this is a vestige of this has come down to us, that we stand today and we wait there till it's Ritzeh and then we go up. But really, what the halacha is, you have to have started towards Ritzeh. Now, if you have been you're in a long line of Kohanim, Kain Yirbu, and you're waiting to wash your hands, and you haven't gotten in yet, and they've already gotten to Ritzeh, and they haven't been kind enough or polite enough to wait for you, you can still go up as long as you started. You were in the process already when we had at the time of Ritzeh. Okay? Now, we today hold and wait. We don't start Ritzeh to make sure that everybody's all ready. But you can walk up before Ritzeh actually starts. It's just that you should have started towards the eventual goal of Duchening by Ritzeh. Okay? When we get up to the Aron Kodesh, we stand facing the Aron Kodesh, and we don't proceed until we're instructed to do so. And that's because the Torah says, "Emor lahem," say to them, "Kol tibarchu es bnei Israel." So in order to fulfill the Torah's commandment that we are going to be told, "Emor lahem, kol tibarchu es bnei Israel," we wait for people to give us instructions, and that's the reason why we're prompted. That's the reason why we wait to hear the words Yivarechecha. Okay, and that's why we do it word by word. Not because you would think if we're standing there and we're waiting to be prompted in the middle, you could forget because you don't have a machzor in front of you. And of course, we would never want to have just one person saying by memory and embarrass other people who didn't know how to say by memory. But everybody could have looked in the machzor and seen the words Yivarechecha, and everybody would have known at least the first word. But even for the first word, we have to wait and see that we're prompted for the first word, because Emor lahem, say to them, Kol tibarchu es bnei Israel. So we wait to be told. The important thing there is we're waiting standing, facing the Aron Kodesh, and you have your hands cupped like this. You don't form yet your hands for the bracha until the time that the Kohanim are called. So you're standing there waiting. Now, the tefillos that we say in the machzor that are in our sidurim today related to the Siyas Kapayim are already mentioned in the Gemara. We want to have the kol say amen to our tefillah that we say beforehand. So there's a Yiratzon, if you can pull it out, Shelo Yehei Shum Mikshol V'Avon, right, that we say beforehand. And we wait. It starts just, I'm sure he gives it to you right beforehand, right? This Yehiratzon, we wait to say, which appears, Yehiratzon Milchanev Hashem Elokeinu B'Kei V'Seinu Shetehei HaBracha Azol Shezivisanu L'Varech Tzachma Yisrael Bracha Shleima V'Lo Yeh Shum Mikshol V'Yavon Me'ata V'Ad Olam. We want the kahal to answer amen to that. So we recite that so that we finish with the shots. When the shot says Hato Shimcha Olechana Elahodos, and the kahal goes amen, they say amen also to our words Me'atov Yad Olam. So we're supposed to stop and finish Me'atov Yad Olam at the same time that they say Hato Shimcha Olechana Elahodos. So you're standing there, you're waiting, you got your talis over your head, you're all set up ready to say the bracha. You've said, may this bracha that we're about to pronounce as we've been commanded to do. May it be a bracha shlema, a complete bracha, a full blessing, and it shouldn't be any michshol v'yavon v'yatav v'yad olam. And we have to, we want to finish at the same time that the shot says L'chana el lahodos. So as he says the word lahodos, we say v'ad olam. The same thing we do at the end. When we start, when we say hashkifa mim'on kachika, we also end eretz savas chalav udvash. Now, I was been in a shul once in Southfield, where all the Kohanim in Southfield, Michigan, where all the Kohanim knew just the words eretz savas chalav udvash. It was a Theodor Herzl song or a Theodor Mikkel song. I'm sorry. They just said at the end eretz savas chalav udvash. I don't know why they ended at the same time. That was a vestige from the fact that they knew, they had grown up knowing that you're supposed to finish the paragraph at the same time as the shots, but they didn't know that, so they just said eretz savas chalav udvash at the end of the. You have to finish at the same time, and that's why you hear those words out loud. You'll hear Kohanim say it, eretz savas chalav udvash. However, you shouldn't say them so loud that they're louder than the shots. Is hamavarechas amo Yisrael mashalom. So twice we finish with the shots, and we make our tefillos time them so they'll end at the same time as the Shatz's bracha. So when the Kahal hears the Shatz's bracha, they'll be saying Amen both to what we say and to what the Shatz says. So in both those places, Hatoshim Chol L'chana El Lahodos, the bracha before we duchen, we end our little paragraph, V'ashum Michshol V'yavom V'yatov V'yad Olam, and at the very end when we say Hashkifa Mim'on Kachava, which is also already mentioned in the Talmud. Right? And the procedure of reciting it to finish with the shots is also already mentioned in the Talmud. So it's a very, very old practice and one that should be adhered to. So that little paragraph that we say, we should time to finish just when the shots ends his particular bracha. Okay? Then here's where there are differences of opinion. Some say the whole paragraph. Some have the shots say the whole paragraph. And then he just says Kohenim out loud. Okay. Others have a third person say Kohenim. But anyway, after we get to that point, we then recite the bracha still facing the Aron Kodesh. Now, I want to point out what's a general halacha in turning around in shul. Believe it or not, the Rambam says Ein Penios Ella Yamina. So when you turn around in shul, you're always supposed to turn to the right. Now this applies. We always turn to the right. Ki Satan omeid l'sit. No, he stands on your left, right? We always turn towards the Shechina, which is on our right. So when you turn around in shul, even for Bo'i v'Shalom, there's a halacha. You have to turn this way. You have to turn to your right. Always to your right. When you turn back, you turn always to your right hand. Now, and the Rambam says, Ein Penios. There should never be turnings in halacha except Yamina. So a Jew always turns towards his right. Therefore, but the Rambam mentions it specifically by Nesias Kapayim, by Dofni. So the Rambam says you should turn towards your right. So the Kohanim are facing the Aron Kodesh, and they turn to the right hand to turn around. Okay, at the word Vitzivanu. Hagbah, we do it slightly differently. At Hagbah, we say we're facing the Aron Kodesh. We're facing the Shechina, and the Shechina is sitting. So we want to turn, because we're facing the Shechina then, and we're turning towards the Shechina, we want to turn towards the Shechina's right hand, right? So therefore, since the Shechina is, if this were the Aron Kodesh, and I'm picking up the Torah, I want to turn first towards the Shechina's right, and then towards the left. All right, so that's actually you wind up turning to your own left when you do Hagbah, so that's a good point, okay? But when you do Hagbah, you actually turn this way first, and that way first, showing both sides of the kahal, but you're turning towards the right of the Shekhinah, because you're still facing the Shekhinah. Since we're turning away towards the kahal, we turn to our right. Okay? And the Rambam mentions that dafka by duchne. So he says, Ein pnios el yamina. You have to turn to the right when you turn around. I point out that it applies to everybody, because it also applies to l'chadodi. When you turn around in shul, you're supposed to turn always to your right, because as the Rambam says, we always turn to our right. Okay, and there are all kinds of psukim to show why we would turn to our right, not towards our left. But the Rambam says these are not drushes. This is really a halacha. So Kohanim turn towards their right, and then when you finish your bracha, you continue turning to your right. So you've made a complete circle. Now we're standing at when they say Kohanim. That's when we form our harakim. That's when we form our 5 avirot. What are the 5 avirot? Well, I'm going to show you the the most commonly accepted method. And Rabbi said I should stress this because he has been told that they're Kohanim. He hasn't seen, but he's been told that they're Kohanim who don't know how to form the harakim. There's a pasuk. Sorry. Yes.
I thought you're not supposed to turn toward the congregation until you're ready to say Vayahava.
Well, so we usually turn at the words Vitzivanu, right? Vitzivanu L'varecha Samo Yisrael. So that's why we're turning, because we were commanded L'varecha Samo Yisrael B'Ava. There are that by the way is not spelled out in the Gemara, and there is a shita that you recite the entire bracha facing the Aron Kodesh. Okay, but most common minhag that I know is to turn at the word Vitzivanu, but there are some people who recite the whole bracha. Okay, certainly because one of the reasons why they do that is because they do not want to have any kind of the hefsek at the end of the bracha, so they start turning the word Vitzivanu. So they want to make sure that they're standing there, and then the kahal answers Amen, and then you say your breath. Okay, now. You formed the 5 harakim. What are the 5 harakim? Well, the Shiur Shiurim, which is a beautiful poetic metaphor of the love between a man and a woman, symbolizing the love between God and Knesset Yisrael, it mentions that the Shekhinah looks at its lover like the way a lover is meitzitz mina harakim, the way he looks through a grill work. Okay, meitzitz mina harakim is what the pasuk says. To stare through the spaces. Because harakim are in Hebrew in Lashon Tanakh means if you had like a grill work like we used to have in the mechitza downstairs, we had a grill work to peer through those little holes. So we actually actuate this during Duchening. We say meitzitz min hacharakim. We say to stare through the harakim. And what we say ha-harakim. How many harakim? Hey harakim, 5 harakim. So therefore we generally form 5 harakim. Now the way that I do the harakim and the way that I was taught, the way that I grew up, was to do them this way. Okay? There you have 5 spaces. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Is my picture included there? Yes, that's my picture included there. And there are people that do them also like this. Okay? The way that I grew up was to do it this way. And I think he even mentions, is my way the more common way? He says there are a dozen different customs as to how to hold your hands. By the way, why are we standing underneath the talus when we do our hands this way? Not because people shouldn't see them, or not because there's only din of covering up your hands. It's only that people shouldn't stare and therefore lose. Kadesha lo yistaklu bahem. Yistakel means to stare at. As a matter of fact, that's why we explain the word listakel to mean to stare. That's why we hold that you don't have to have a completely opaque mechitza, because the reason why we have a mechitza is kadesha lo yistaklu, so that men shouldn't stare at women during the time of davening. If you have some kind of physical separation, that already reminds us where our eyes should be. So we hold it doesn't have to be completely opaque, because it's not kadesha lo yiru, kadesha lo yistaklu. The same thing applies here. You put your talus over your head in such a way that people shouldn't stare at your hands, so that they can have kavanah on the bracha. Okay? There's no just above my about people were to see the Kohenim's eyes, our hands. Rahman looks like their vision or something. And the whole reason is that people should have kavanah in the bracha. They should be able to concentrate. You don't want. Now that's why the Gemara, and it's not clear, by the way, to the Gra and others as to whether or not you really should cover your hands. Today, everybody holds you should cover your hands. And the Gemara in Megillah mentions a whole group of people who don't go up to Duchen, people that have occupations that would make their hands spotted, like painters who weren't able to remove, or people who had misshapen hands or something of that sort. Why? Not because they're not kosher Kohanim, but rather because we don't want people not to concentrate on the bracha, on the words of the bracha. So because we want them to have kavanah and intention, and this is not just Rahman al mumbo jumbo that we recite, but it's to have an effect both on the people who recite it and on the people who hear it. We want to make sure that people are in a position to concentrate. And consequently, we put a talus over our hands so people will not concentrate, and we also will not concentrate on one individual person. We'll be able to recite the words, since we're a vessel for an agent for God's performing the bracha. We're not actually being agents of transfer, who are the kli through which God effects a bracha on Bnei Yisrael, and therefore we need to concentrate as well, and therefore that's why we put the talis over our heads. Now, the one thing is clear: no matter which of the dozen customs, he mentions a dozen. I didn't know there were a dozen, but I can think of 4 or 5 different ways of putting your hands. But one thing we all agree on is that they should be keneged kisefo sehem, has to be across from the ketefot, from the shoulders, and that the right hand should be slightly higher than the left. Now you can't lift your hand higher than where the Kohen would wear the tzitz. Okay, so your hands have to be above your shoulders, because it's nesiyat kapayim, it's to lift up your hands, but they should be like across from your shoulders with the right hand slightly higher. And if you make your 5 karakim like this, or your 5 karakim like that, however you do it, or what any of these other minhagim, you keep your right hand slightly higher and your left hand level with your shoulders and your hands extended. Right now, you need to have, by the way, one of the things that you need to do is the bracha has to be, and I don't mention this is not homiletical, this is a chiyuv min haTorah. You have to make the bracha ba'ahava. So you can't have any feelings of rancor towards any of the people that are there. If you have tremendous feelings of rancor to any Jew who's in the kahal, it might be a bracha levatala to make the bracha. So you should, to the extent that it's possible, you should elevate yourself over the tensions that you have with other people. I know on occasion I've asked my wife not to come to shul. Funny kid. But you want to make sure that you can recite. You want to make sure that you can recite the bracha, the ahava. Okay. Now, we turned around either at Vitzivano or at the end of the bracha. We turned around. We've got our hands in the right position, and now the shots. And we finished saying the bracha, and the kol is answered amen, and the shots is going to say yivrecha. Now this is one of my pet peeves because it's a big inyan in halacha. You have to wait till the word is finished from the shliach tzibor before you say yivrecha. The Kohanim say the word together, and it has to be recited b'kol ram, but it should be recited to the extent possible in unison, and after the shots has already said yivrecha. Now if you have one of these guys who says Yivarechecha, he's going on, you have to wait. You don't start. It's not just prompting us. We also have to wait. Trey kale lo mishtame, unless they're saying the same thing with the same status. 2 voices that don't mix unless they're reciting the same thing together that people are listening. Bechiba or ahava. That's why 2 people could read the Megillah. By the way, 2 people could read the Megillah in unison, because there we would say Trey kale mishtame, because everybody's listening carefully to hear the Megillah. But we don't want to mix our voices with the voice of the shots, because we want people to hear the Kohanim. The Kohanim should say it to the extent possible, the kol ram u'b'kol echad, and in one voice, together at the same time in unison. So please wait until the shots finishes saying Yivarechecha before you start saying Yivarechecha. Okay? Now, also, the rabbi wanted me to emphasize also that, and this happens to be the halacha, believe it or not, people can't sing separate nigunim. You have to sing one nigun. Now, in some minyanim, there is a Kohen who will insist on singing one nigun, so the other Kohanim, even though it might not be the shul's nigun, the other Kohanim, in order to fulfill the halacha, have decided that we'll go along and sing this nigun with him, because he'll sing his own nigun anyway, and we're going to wind up with different nigunim. The rabbi wanted me to actually sing the nigun that they sing downstairs, which I happen to know, even though I don't daven downstairs. Rabbi Kohen introduced this a number of years ago in the shul. When I first moved in, by the way, this was not the nigun that they sang downstairs, but he then later introduced the nigun, and I think it goes like this. We'd sing, die 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 die. Is that right? Die 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 die, and then you wait. But if you don't know the nigun, don't choose a favorite popular tune or something that you yourself grew up with if that's what all the Kohanim are reciting. Now the nusach, the old traditional nusach, one that a lot of people knew from Europe, was to sing like the nusach of the bracha there was to sing I da 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 da. That's what Stan Kaplan sings, and we all wind up singing it also. So because he's going to sing it anyway, so we'll sing with him in order to make sure that we're all singing the same thing. And so those of us who daven upstairs in Yom Narayim, we all sing that. But if we don't know it, or you're a guest in a shul where they sing something that you aren't familiar with, then you should wait and make sure you say together the words. The most important part, Yivarechecha. Now, what are people doing during that time? People during that time, though the Gemara says that one of the best things to do if somebody had a bad dream is to go to the Beis Hamikdash and to watch the Kohenim doing the Siyas Kapayim, or to be present when the Kohenim doing the Siyas Kapayim. So there actually is a tefillah in there that some people recite without moving their lips. They recite by kavana, tefillah for those who saw a Chalma Bisha, the Gemara calls it, a bad dream. If you saw a bad dream, you recite that tefillah. But most of the time, I think people are standing and watching. Now, I should have mentioned this. Now, why do we turn around? Because the bracha has to be panim el panim. That's why we turn. And therefore, Jews that turn away, some people didn't want to see the Kohanim, so they turn back. They're defeating the whole purpose. We only turn around, so it should be panim el panim. Ko tevarchu es bnei Yisrael. You've got to do it the way they did it, which was panim el panim, face to face. So we turn around. Then there's some usually people in the Ezras Nashim, you find that very often people will turn away, right? They've defeated the whole purpose for us turning around. The Kahal has to stand face to face with us. That's the reason, by the way, that we move everybody back from the side. They should be panim el panim, so we can do the bracha correctly. So people who turn away are not doing the proper thing, because they're not allowing us to do the bracha panim el panim. Okay? Now, so we've waited for the shots to finish saying Yivarechecha. We wait till it's quiet, and we all say together Yivarechecha. Okay. Now, some people will have the custom of turning at specific set points. At the words Yivarechecha, first to the left, and then Hashem, we don't turn in any direction. Just like with the Nanuim, with the Lulav and Ezra, we would never want to turn in any particular direction when we say God's name, because we want to indicate that God's just in that direction. Our concept of God is not a local concept, but an all-encompassing concept. So we don't turn in any direction. Some people have the custom to go like this, say Yivarechecha, to turn first this way, Hashem, V'yishmerecha, to turn that way, right? But at the least, you should be in all directions during the course of the bracha. My own custom follows what the Nosekim of the Shulchan Aruch say, which is Yivarechecha Hashem v'yishmerecha Yo'er Hashem panav eilecha v'chuneka Yisah Hashem panav eilecha v'yisein lecha shalom. But at the least, you should be in all directions to encompass all the Jews that you're trying to include in your bracha. Now, if it applies that we also don't start and say Yivarechecha mi'ad ad shetichle Yivarechecha mi piyashatz, we also don't say anything while we're waiting for the Kal's Amen to be finished, right? So we wouldn't want to recite anything when the Kal's saying Amen. So we wait at the end until they say Amen, and then we start again. Then we wait to be prompted. Ya'er, right? So don't the shots. If you Levim and Yisraelim, if you're the over Lifnei Teva, you also have to wait. You should wait. You don't prompt until the Amen finishes. There's only one time when, to my knowledge, when the Shulchan Aruch says you don't have to wait if somebody's draining a cup with davening, and that's if somebody says in Kaddish says V'imru when he's going crazy, V'imru, and then the Kal doesn't have to wait. They can say Amen right away. They don't have to. That's the only time that I can remember. Do you know any other places where she says, yeah, you have to start and you have to say it right away. It's the only place that I know the Shulchan Aruch counsels that you break in the middle and say Amen, just cut them off. But it's important that we not be led by the nuances of music, that we want to have sort of like a little syncopation. So for like we do with Mikadesh Yisrael, the Hazmani, and everybody likes a syncopation thing because they join us with Amen in the middle. No, you have to wait for Mikadesh Yisrael, the Hazmani, and then everybody says Amen. You answer Amen to the bracha, not answering. It's not some kind of like a choral type thing, that we're trying to break in at the right spot. So the same thing applies here, where the Shlich Tzibor who's prompting the Kohanim should wait before he starts to say the next word until Misha Tichla Amen Mipi Hakol, until the Amen is finished. And everybody's had a chance to say Amen. Okay? Now, we are reciting then word for word with the shots. At times when we would not recite where people would not be reciting that tefillah for Chama Bisha, for bad dream, we would not be singing. Okay, and therefore, since they probably wouldn't be reciting it on Shabbos, we usually don't sing on Shabbos when we have Dovdei. And because people who came to a tikkun, Leil Shavuos, were up the whole night, nobody had a bad dream, but they're up the whole night, we don't sing then either. And if you do sing then, I'm going to kill you. Okay? So we are always out. Somebody got very angry last year that we didn't sing. He says, "What are you just trying to go home early?" I said, "No, it just doesn't apply. Nobody's saying that. Tefillah then, everybody, we're all going to go home. You have the next day to say the tefillah if you had a bad dream that you stored up for this period of time." Anyway, so we don't sing at the time when people wouldn't recite those particular passages. And consequently, our custom here is not to sing on times when we would duck and when that wouldn't be recited. So the next point is we've gotten to the end and we've said Shalom. Now you stand there because it's Kol Tevarchu as Bnei Israel, right? We want to be prompted. When he goes V'yasem, we go Shalom and we're all done, right? You don't turn around yet. You have to wait until you're prompted. What do? And you don't put your hands down. So you stand there with your hands. If the shots theoretically were thumping through the sitter, he got lost. We'd still be standing there. When do we turn around? When the shot starts, Sim Shalom. Why? Because the bracha is a bracha that we're prompted to do. If we're really being prompted, we should wait to see if we're being prompted anymore. So we stand and wait. When the shot starts, Sim Shalom Tova Bracha, that's when we turn around with our hands still up. So you're still standing there. You turn around with your hands still up, and you put your hands down. You relax your hands after you've turned around to the Aron Kodesh. So we will be standing there. Theoretically, if the shots hasn't started, all the Kohanim should still be standing in the same position. Then when the shot says Sim Shalom, we turn around as one, and then we put our hands down. Okay, that is something that not very many Kohanim do, and should remember. Because we're prompted, we're moving together with the shots. Now, it is appropriate to the extent possible that Kohanim do things together in unison, and therefore, even though we should all do it Kol Ram, we're all doing B'tzavta Chada. We're all doing it as one group. So we turn around as one group, we begin as one group, and put our hands down at the end. Now, that little paragraph that comes with the pasuk Hashkifa Mim'on Kodecha, that paragraph that we recite afterwards, which ends with the words Eretz, Savas, Chalav, Udvash, also, as I mentioned before, we recite in unison the end of it with the shots. So when the shot says Hamavarech Esamo Yisrael Bashalom, we end Eretz, Savas, Chalav, Udvash. We say Udvash when he says Shalom, so that when they answer Amen, the Kahal, they've answered Amen, both to what we've said and to what the Shlich Tzibor has said, just like at the beginning. And now the only time that's a problem is on the Yamim Noraim, because you have other sections in there. So because the shot says says that little paragraph and says Hayom Tamseinu in one neshima, I'm davening Musaf, but when I wasn't davening Musaf, I would always say Eretz Vas Chalav Udvash by Hayom Tamseinu. So when the call would answer to Hayom Tamseinu, the first one, I'd go Eretz Vas Chalav Udvash with Hayom Tamseinu. So they'd say, because they answer Amen at that spot. That's the first part where they say Amen, right?
Tony, I have a question here. I'm just looking at the sitter here. Where we end up saying Udvash, that's before Sim Shalom in the sitter.
No, well, that's where they print it, but we recite it. We're reciting it at the same time that the shots is saying Sim Shalom, right? In other words, they don't wait for us. We're doing Griffiths Kohanim. This is before, right? We do Griffiths Kohanim, right? And then when he starts Sim Shalom, we're reciting the Ribbono Shel Olam. This little section.
He's not saying
right.
this what we're saying.
Right. As a matter of fact, look, he even tells you they then conclude their prayer simultaneously with the Chazan's conclusion. Even how do you like that? Proof even from the Art Scroll. it says Eretz Avas Chalav U'Dvash, right? So this paragraph is only printed here because it belongs to what came before, but the conclusion is done simultaneous with the other conclusion. Okay, all right. So that's in a nutshell. Those are the procedures for Birkas Kohanim. Okay. Now, what did I leave out? I must have left out.
They have to be straight.
So your arm should be straight to the extent that you can. Now, the fact of the matter is, Rabbi Kohen, as Zichron Libracha, as he got older, used to complain about chazanim, that they would drag things out because it was difficult for him to hold his arms up. And I would say, by the way, as we get closer and closer to old age, we should be more sensitive to that kind of thing. You see, sometimes I see your shots is taking a little longer, and you have elderly men there that it's very, very difficult. But they have to hold their arms out and above their shoulders, and that's a difficult thing for a person with arthritis or whatever. So they should.
During the singing.
He used to do that. Yeah, he couldn't hold his arms up for the singing, so
But sometimes that
he used to put his arms down to relax, because it was difficult for him to hold his. And he used to keep his hands up.
He still used to move from side to side
Yes.
during the singing.
Yes, he used to move from side to side also during the singing in order to include everyone. The only time that we can't is during when we recite God's name. That's all.
I mean, I never did it because I never understood why he was doing it.
Only to include everybody. That's all. By the way, do you know? I'm going to tell you something interesting. Do you know that when there's even a halacha in shuckling? You know that when you shuckle, you're not supposed to shuckle from side to side. You're supposed to shuckle forward. The reason why we shuckle from side to side, right? Why do we shuckle? There's a famous story told that they used to make fun of the early Hasidim, the way they daven, right? So they're always into davening. Originally, Misnagdim didn't do this. We picked up some good things from the Hasidim, right? So the Hasidim applied to this, Kol Atzmusai, Tomar Hashem, Micha Mocha. All my bones say Micha Mocha. I want to daven with my whole body. But the story's told of the Baal Shem Tov that people were making fun of him, the way that he davened. So he says, if you saw a man drowning, would you make fun of the motions that he's making to try to get out of the water, right? Because the word says, I'm drowning in davening. I'm trying to reach Kadosh Baruch Hu. I'm like a drowning man. You wouldn't make fun of my motions either. But shuckling from side to side is considered you're trying to, be self-possessed, self-contained. So it's mishum yohara, for hubris, excess pride. We don't shuckle from side to side. Really just to shuckle forward. Okay. Now Rabbi Kohen would turn from side to side in order to include all those people in his bracha. So that's why he'd be going from side to side. So important things would be to tell women and others not to turn back away. For us to, just to summarize, for us to try to say the bracha of Yehi Ratzon and finish simultaneous with the shots. For all I make fun of the art school, by the way, the halakhic instructions in the Sidurim are always precise and accurate. It's very, very accurate all the time. If you ever have a question, you do what's written in the art scroll siddur, you really will not go wrong. Can't recall a place I found where they have put something germane that's important to mention. Put it in there. That your hands be held across from your shoulders with the right hand slightly higher. That you make 5 spaces, however you do it, whether it's this way, or 10 other ways, and that you turn to the right when you turn towards the kahal and turn back to the right, and that you wait to be prompted, that you don't turn back again until the shliach tzibor begins the words sim shalom, and then we all turn around as one. Okay. Anything else? Yeah.
You're supposed to take your rings off. What about watches and stuff?
No, just
the ring?
Yeah, we take our rings off for 2 reasons. Okay. One is that we don't have anything that's chotzates between us and the bracha, and I'm not really sure about that. That it's so rigorous, but that's what we do it. And the second reason why we do it also is I've seen mentioned in Sifrei Musar is we never want to make a distinction among people. We have to guard against this. There should never be a distinction made among people as to the level of wealth or prosperity that they've been lucky enough to attain. So I once saw a sefer that somebody wrote that the Kohenim removed their rings and jewelry, so they should all be equal. It's just Bnei Aaron at the time when they make the bracha. And by the way, the one thing somebody can be proud of is that they've attained knowledge, they've attained Torah knowledge. But don't we go out of our way not to embarrass people who don't have Torah knowledge, right? wedding usually will say Hare At with anybody, whether it's a Ben Torah or isn't a Ben Torah, so as not to embarrass those people who don't know what they're supposed to say. We want everybody to feel equal. Well, Torah knowledge that you can be proud of because it's accessible to any Jew. It's a democracy. Any Jew, no matter who his lineage is, could aspire to Torah knowledge. If we want to even that out at times of public prayer, then how much more so something not important like money? Not never to make a distinction. The Gemara tells that when people used to bring the bikurim, they used to bring beautiful platters. Some people bring fantastic, beautiful designer platters, but the bikurim, they didn't want to embarrass people, so they started everybody should bring a symbol. Same thing applies also with Rahman al-Islam when you go to the Beis Chaim with a aron, the casket. It also should be, everybody should be the same. So we want to make sure that at least if not in life, if our social circumstances not allow people to be equal in life, then at least they should be equal at the time when they go to the Olam Shalefes. What else? Oh, now by the way, why do we take our shoes off? I should have mentioned this. So the Gemara says the reason why we take our shoes off, by the way, has nothing whatsoever to do with leather. Some people thought it was like Moshe Rabbeinu, Shals no lecha, take off your shoes because you're standing on a Makom Kadosh. No. What? I'm sorry? Yeah. The reason why, though, however, was because the Kohen was once preparing to go up to Duchning, and the strap broke on his sandal. Okay, the thong broke. So he wasn't able to, he missed the Duchning. So from that point on, they made a takana that the Kohanim should take their shoes off. Now, when a takana or gezerah is made in Jewish law, it continues to apply even if the reason doesn't. Let me give you an example. We take patent medicines, right? We generally don't take medicines that we are mixed ourselves. However, there's a gezerah that you don't take medicine on Shabbos unless it's really necessary. It's necessary, of course, but unless it's really necessary, we don't casually take medicine on Shabbos because there was a gezerah made, Shema, that people with a sum of money might grind them up, right, to make their own medicine. Now, even though the reason doesn't apply anymore, the takana has a life of its own in Jewish law. A takana stands whether the reason is applicable or isn't applicable. Now, this particular practice was instituted that Jews should take off their shoes. The Kohanim should take off their shoes not because it's a Makom Kadosh, but because of that incident that occurred. If that's the case, then it should apply to any kind of tie shoe, actually. So therefore, if you're wearing sneakers on Yom Kippur and that have the tie, unless they're slip-ons, right, you have to remove them to go up to Duchen. And by the same token, you could wear slippers to go up to Duchen too if they don't have ties, if they slip on and off. Then you could wear those as well, right? So you don't have to be barefoot to Duchen. You have to be wearing non-tie shoes that wouldn't have that particular. So therefore, on Yom Kippur, we do take our sneakers off, right? When we go up to Duchen. And I've been in there were some great yeshivas. They have slippers that people wear. The Kohanim wear special slippers for Kohanim that they would wear. So it's not that your feet have to be bare. So you have to be wearing shoes that don't apply to that takana.
So if you're wearing slip-on leather shoes on Yom Tov, you can just...
So I would say, that if you were wearing like loafers on or moccasins or loafers, so I would say you should be able to go up. Okay. Now I would say that people are going to get confused if you do that. So when I'm wearing loafers, I actually take them off too, because somebody's going to say, wearing shoes. What's going on? You're wearing shoes to go up to why get involved in a whole discussion, right? But the fact of the matter is, the whole point of it was that somebody once broke the thong and wasn't able to go up, so we don't wear tie shoes in order to go up. Yeah.
No, it's frightening the misknowledge because I always bought loafers to wear on Yom Tov.
Because they're easier.
No, because it was easier to take off.
To me, that's what I thought.
In the first place.
Yeah.
I mean, it was young.
Yeah, but I'm just saying though, me too. But I take them off because I'm not brave enough.
No, what
I would tell you, I'm not brave enough to go up. We're wearing the loafers, so I take off loafers. Because everybody's going to.
What about kids on there?
Oh, should kids in Duchen, okay? I mean, for kids to go up to Duchen, we don't. By the way, if you have like, there are certain differences in halacha when you have a single person that is Duchening, and whether or not a single Kohen should be. And this is a complicated paragraph. I'm only going to make halakha, and I'm only going to make a brief reference to it. I'm not going to spell it out. But there's a real question whether a single unmarried young Kohen should duchen by himself when there are no other Kohanim, okay? And certainly whether or not a Kohen wouldn't, certainly. But when there are other Kohanim, we are supposed to bring up the young Kohanim with us, and either to teach them to duchen. And I don't think it has to be already from the age of 5 or 6 or 7. No concept of what's going on. By the way, does the mitzvah of the Kiddashto, this is a very important mitzvah that Yisraelim should be makpid in, right? So the Torah says the Kiddashto, you have to sanctify the Kohen, right? You don't ask a Kohen to do for you manual labor, right? You should be, you should be the aristocracy of the Jewish people, as I always want to say, right? So you don't ask the Kiddashto. Does that apply to a Kohen that's under the age of bar mitzvah? The answer is no. However, a Kohen that's under the age of bar mitzvah cannot be taken to a basic pharos or to a funeral for somebody that he wouldn't be obligated when he's older to be misabel for. So, but a Kohen that's under the age of 13 is not, the Kiddashto doesn't apply to him, because the Torah says, Ki es lechem elokecha hu makriv, and if he's under the age of 13, he wouldn't be makriv es lechem elokecha. So the Kiddashto does not apply to a young Kohen, but young Kohanim, who are known, by the way, in Lashon HaChamim as the Pirchei Kahuna, right? Not to be confused with the Pirchei Agudas Yisrael, but the Pirchei Kahuna were the Krachim, the flowers of the Kahuna. That's how you refer to young Kohanim. And young Kohanim were taken up to duchen so that they should learn how to duchen correctly. And I hope that everybody will be in position now to show people how to duchen correctly. Any other things I might have left out? Did I leave out anything else? Tomorrow I'm thinking.
Broken arm.
So we definitely we would follow what the let me not make a blanket case. You should ask in a case like that. But if a Kohen would have a deformity that might cause people to not to concentrate on that and not concentrate on the bracha, then there'd be a real shiloh whether or not he should duchen. Okay, but one thing would certainly not be the case, that if a Kohen with such a deformity were to go up to duchen, it certainly would be usher to embarrass him by asking him to sit down. Certainly clear. But it would be questionable whether or not a Kohen temporarily, say you were in a big cast with your arms stuck out like this, and from a skiing thing, and it's obviously temporary, and it's going to be off in 2 weeks, and whatever, and it would cause a big stir, and it would keep people from, let me mention another thing too, okay? It's a mitzvah in Kohanim to duchen. If the Kohen is not Shomer Shabbos, it's still a mitzvah of the duchen. One isn't dependent upon the other. There's only one time when we have a knas not to have Kohanim duchen, and that's Kohanim who are on a regular basis mezalzel and kahuna, dash b'kahuna, and are mitame lamesi, right? They can't be called up as Kohanim. If you have somebody who's mitame lamesi, I once had a case, as a matter of fact, it's a relative of this person in town. I was speaking at Young Israel in Southfield, and somebody asked me a question, says, but the Kohen would be a pathologist. I didn't know there was a Kohen sitting there who was a pathologist, But Kohen was a pathologist, clearly, by his job, is mitame lamesi, right? A Jew can't come into contact with the Jewish mace, tumas ohel. You can't be in the same enclosed place. With a non-Jewish mace, you can be in the same enclosed place, but you can't touch. You can have tumas maga. You can't touch. A Kohen who's a pathologist is dealing in human tissue all the time. It's clearly, mitame lamesi. But what I didn't know was that there was a pathologist sitting right there. It was like a terrible setup. They were all angry at this guy that he duchen, but you're not allowed to call up such a person for Kohen. We call up such a person for achron, okay? Because a Kohen who, on a regular basis, is ignoring his responsibilities, there's a knas, a penalty. He shouldn't go up to duchen, and he should not be given a Kohen aliyah. You give him achron, so as not to be pogeya bichvodo, or but you, I shouldn't call him up as a Kohen. That is a knas. However, a Kohen who is not Shomer Shabbos is still obligated to duchen. Duchening is not a separate opinion whatsoever. I was told by people that the reason that traditional conservative synagogues got rid of duchening was because they thought it was inappropriate sometimes for their members who were not, some of them, Chali Shabbos Mar Hesia, to duchen. They didn't want to have people duchen. They thought other Jews objected who were observant who went there. So, but really, even though it might seem incongruous, ha b'haldo talia. There is one thing: if a Kohen was horek nefesh, right, then Rahman al-Islam, if you killed somebody, even if it was just manslaughter, then there's also a question about one should duchen. Right? But those are the limited cases. And one further case, if a Kohen's daughter performs noose, it's also questionable whether she committed adultery. The daughter of a Kohen committed adultery, then it's also a question in halacha whether or not it's appropriate for him to duchen, because the Torah says, "Esaviha yichalalas," right? So she's profaning her father, and her father now is become a halal, and he's now profane. So there's a question there also. But Kohanim who don't keep kosher, or who don't daven, or have no Jewish background, we encourage them to duchen. Who knows what will lead to what? Maybe the experience of being the agent for God's bracha will cause them to consider the content of the bracha and bring them to closer to sin for God's bracha.
Those are those that should walk out.
Those who don't duchen should walk out. Yeah. The complicated things as to where you are in tefillah and and all that, I'm not going to go into. I'd rather write that out because they're too complex. I hope to someday soon in the future be able to sort of write up little madrich that can have competent rabbinical guardians review it and then hand it out.
What is you? You say you daven musaf, right?
Yeah.
Then you
I duchen when I daven musaf. The reason why I duchen when do you ever see Asher Heimowitz is here from the Shiur synagogue? He's a Kohen. Okay? He duchens. The reason why a Kohen wouldn't duchen is not because of the moving of the feet. The reason why a Kohen wouldn't duchen is because he might be misbalbel, get confused, right? However, on Yom Noraim, where I have plenty of time to practice and plenty of time to prepare, I never used to duchen, and I said, it doesn't make sense to me. I got a machzor right in front of me. There's no way I can get confused, right? The machzor, it's all written out. It's standing there right in front of me. So I said to the rabbi, I really think I ought to duchen. He says, if he asks you, why do you think that? I told him, he says, I think you ought to duchen too. So all right, I'm going to ask Rav Shach for what he thought also, just to get another opinion, just to see. I also thought, there's no question to the duchening, particularly if you're the regular Yami Noraim Bal Musa, if it's obvious what you do. So I do duchen when I daven from the Yom because I'm used to davening Musaf, and I wouldn't get confused. And I can turn around just like anybody else. Right? And then turn back. There's no problem. No akiras from life. I just have to turn back and put my feet back together when I start to say the davening. The only reason why Shlichei Tzibor didn't duchen was because so they wouldn't get confused. Sirach Hasimah Tova.